It's time for more Bannerlord Abridged. Last time we were pushing the front line for our faction and trying to get my archers to work. In the end though, there was a gigantic war and we lost most of the territory, perhaps all of the territory we actually gained in the previous part. I also lost my army along the way, and now we're starting to come back from that with a new army and a new, easier war where we're again making some progress. This turned out to be a lie actually, because what happened shortly after is the war ended. We took the castle just to my right, then lost it again, putting it in its current state. And then in the process of taking that castle again, I was here hunting down some nearby enemies, wondering if I should go kill these guys, and thinking yeah, I probably can, looking at their party composition. My party is not as good as it once was, but it's as big as it once was at least. Then these guys luck out because there's a peace treaty as I attack them, and we also got a peace treaty with the Western Empire at some point during this war as well. So, long story short, the gigantic war that kind of happened in the background in the last part didn't really come to much because it didn't last very long. So now we're only at war with two factions that are kind of dead and don't really have anything. The Northern Empire has one castle, Sturgia has nothing. So what I did is just go home, and then I went and did the story objective instead. That was just to speak with 10 nobles about something or other. And we now get a new quest. I have to talk to 2 NPCs in 2 towns on the other side of the world, so I'll make a quick journey over there. This first one was located in the area where previously we were conquering in the last part. Now it's gone to our rivals. A shame, maybe we'll get it at some point. We move on in and talk to this NPC. Handily I can teleport to their house and don't have to look for them in the town, so that's nice. So this lady is speaking to us about a magical banner, and she's even speaking in real life. This is a sudden voice-acted NPC, which was a surprise, so this has got to be something special. And the long story short is that she's talking about a banner of particular importance, and it would be nice to remake this banner from various fragments that exist, and whoever does this would be seen as a particularly special person. So we can do this as a sort of glory quest basically. We're going to get the very revered banner. She has a piece of it which she gives to us and asks us to go get another one from a nearby bandit lair. I think in exchange I had to promise I wouldn't use the banner to bring down the Empire, and sure, we're not going to do that, are we? She hasn't noticed what we've been doing so far, that's for sure. You also can't kill her, so that's going well. I thought before I do anything about this I'll go check out the other Talk to a Guy quest. And actually it's kind of the same quest. At first I was like, is this a glitch? But in retrospect there's a reason why it makes you do it again. So you go and talk to another guy who also talks about a mythical banner and also has a piece, and also tells you to go fight some bandits to find another lost piece. So now we have a couple of pieces and a couple of bandit lairs to attack. The first one I go for is right outside the town where I just spoke to that guy. Been a while since we did one of these, just need to do the bandit hideout attack mission. In this case there was barely anyone here actually, so it was pretty easy, and it's made easier by the fact that now that we're really good with a bow and have a good bow, we can just kind of snipe the enemies down at a distance long before they aggro towards us, and with this method we work our way through this dark field of enemies, eventually killing enough to get to the final thing where you have to fight the little group. And in the group we are not going to do a duel, of course, we just get our gang to attack them. I'm going to get out of the way so I survive, because that's how Attili rolls, and the gang fights away with me sniping him. I think because of our 2/3 damage thing, even though our gang mostly sucks, we'll be okay in these little fights. So we take the hideout and we get the piece of the banner, the second piece as it said, even though we've now got 3. And that completes a quest, but I still have to go get the other bit of the banner that the first NPC told me about before it actually progresses the story here. The problem was, while it had marked that hideout on the map, it didn't mark the first hideout I needed to attack on the map. I think because I didn't do it and instead went to trigger the second part of the quest, it didn't appear or something. So the problem now is finding where it is. It is actually right there, I just went over it on the screen, but it's not marked as a quest objective, so there was no way of knowing which hideout I needed to attack. But to cut that long story short, after walking around for a while, it just suddenly was marked as an objective, it just sort of appeared. And it was one of the ones near where I picked up the quest, so I guess that makes sense. And here we are. What I thought I'd do is wait outside, because there are a load of guys inside. I thought they might walk off and do some patrolling, so I'll just sit here to make this attack easier. And to cut that long story short, they never did leave, so here we are making the attack. The problem with there being a whole bunch of guys inside is that we're only allowed to bring 8 troops, so we do need to make our way through this effectively and do a lot of damage personally to make this work. Luckily, with the sniping at small groups in the distance technique, we can get off to a good start. One fun, sort of expected but missing feature of this raid system is that you can't pick which 8 people come with you. So I can't bring, say, a bunch of archers to stand with me and snipe away. Instead, I think it's mostly my companions and a couple of trash infantry. One of them's down there making an attack for some reason. Eventually, they just sit up on the hill with me, and I managed to sit on a particularly sweet spot. I think I found some kind of exploit or something. There was a bit on the side of the hill where if I stood there, the enemy would try to run at me, but they would get stuck on those rocks ahead of me, as you can see. And in this fashion, we're going to be able to win this raid mission because they're just all going to stand there and eventually die. We've got plenty of arrows, so we can kill all of them. The only risk was a few of them were shooting back, but that didn't do too much damage in the end. Then the duel at the end, I wanted to shoot the guy in the face straight away, but messed it up. And then I'll just stand at the side as usual, snipe away. Would be better to actually run to the left rather than the right as I keep doing, so I can shoot where their shield isn't. But we win anyway. So that's that. We've got another piece of the banner. And now I have to decide which of the 2 versions of the mission I want to go ahead with. I can either give it to the first NPC or the second one. The first one being pro-Empire, the second one anti. So I'm guessing if you want to join an Empire faction, you go for the first one, but we're already in a non-Empire faction, so I thought I'd better go for the second one, otherwise that's going to cause trouble. Now we get to him, he remakes the banner from the pieces, and then he's like, well, you need to go and join a faction and start fighting the Empire then if you want to use this banner or something. I figured maybe I don't have to do anything because I'm already in a non-imperial faction. I thought it just hadn't detected it because I only just completed the quest. So I went back out and went back in again to see if he would just be like, oh, you're in the cuz, it's okay, they can have the banner. But no, it turns out I have to go and actually give it to somebody in order to sort of declare my banner allegiance. And they actually do say in that conversation that while you're carrying the banner, you are the Bannerlord. So that's why they called it Bannerlord. Anyway, we take the banner to our faction leader, and he says that this is pretty good. It's a sign we're going to take over the world, that this old and famous banner has been given to him. However, nothing happens. That's the big anticlimax to all this. He doesn't like me anymore for doing it. He doesn't appear to give our faction any bonuses, and yeah, just nothing happens. Don't even get any quest rewards like some money or something. You get another objective, and that is to weaken the Empire. So we need to cut them down to size, a very small size, to carry on with the story. I guess we're going to do that anyway if we're conquering the world, so that's that. Now all we can do is wait for another war, I guess, and then try to win it. Right now we're actually at peace with everyone, so I'm just sitting around. I figured at least we'd get some sort of passive buff for our faction for giving them the banner, like we'd get more troops or something to help us win the war and make it less of a grind. But that does not appear to be the case, so now we wait. While we wait, the plot thickens. This thing pops up, saying that the NPC I didn't give the banner to is now conspiring against us and has 1,000 conspiracy points out of 2,000. So not sure how she got those, but apparently something is going to happen, and we'll just have to keep an eye on that, I guess. Didn't really know what to make of it, so I just ignored it as usual. What I was actually doing during the wait is this: going around, finding looter parties that are at least a bit big so it's worth engaging them. And then engaging them. Just training up the troops so they're less trash, basically ready for when stuff starts going down. And also still trying to get a grips of the archer system. Here's an example of spreading the men out using this manual line thing to make them fire more. The default formation they form up in, if you just order them to move somewhere, is like double or triple rank, which means most of them don't fire, so that sucks. I feel like in old Mountain Blade you could do something about that, but I don't think you can this time, or at least I haven't found anything to deal with that. You can see that aside from our war with the Eternal Test clan that's always there for some reason, we're now just at war with the Northern Empire, who have like no troops. Looking at the other factions here, you can see we are actually the strongest faction with our neighbours, the Southern Empire, in second. So while I was sort of pessimistic about our hopes of winning the campaign, if no one gangs up on us, we should win. Not really sure, we'll see. Anyway, I decided to actually do some stuff against the Northern Empire because while they have no territory, they're still kind of in the game with a few parties walking around. And here's their faction leader. I hunted him down. He had 0 troops, so we don't have to fight, he just gets captured instantly. And the nice thing about this is we get 10,000 gold in plunder for quote-unquote winning the battle, and we get the prisoners that he was carrying around. This means we can put these good troops into our prisoner party, eventually convince them to be in our party, and that will contribute to making my party not trash. You can see it on the right there. We've got quite a few good troops already. Mostly got rid of the recruits. Now, another while later, things get started again because we go back to war with Britannia. So now we have some targets to go after. Not really ideal because we're going to be taking places that will just get lost instantly the second someone else declares war on us. But might as well go do it. I went and met up with a gathering army, and while we were waiting for more troops, the plot thickened again. I got this quest thing saying I can stop the conspiracy. I've got 20 days to stop the conspiracy, and the only objective is try to stop the conspiracy. Again, not really sure what to make of that. The only kind of lead is to go find that NPC, see if they're still there, and maybe stab them up again. However, I did not even attempt to do that because I was just like, oh, I don't really know what's going on here, and I guess I don't mind whatever the conspiracy is going to do. Just do it. I'll try and deal with it at that time. In the meantime, we'll stick with the army and just go and see what they're doing. They go up to the top of the map and attack this city right here. We're going to strategically not be in the army, of course, for this part. You can be in the army at first while they still have food and they're not stealing your supplies, but as long as you get out later, that way you still get some influence from being in the army. You don't have to click on things while moving about for a bit. And then you can be outside the army for things like this, where all of our troops can, of course, wait at the back of the map while I come up here and clear out all the archers overlooking the main ram-pushing blob to save lives on our side. Very nice of me. Also looks like I tank a few arrows. I think at some point around this time I turned the difficulty down so that my personal damage is on very easy, meaning I only take 1/3 damage. Someone recommended this to me saying it was more fun to play that way, and I thought, yeah, it probably is. I want to be alive and I just want to stand in front of the walls and shoot. I want to be able to tank arrows. So I have actually made it easier for myself at this stage. Not that it's made a big difference in any particular battles we fought. Looks like I nearly died in that battle, in fact, so I guess I would have died earlier on. Not that that would change the result. Anyway, moving on, we won that battle, of course. I had heard there was another siege going on nearby. However, as I go to look at it, it's broken up. The army's lost its cohesion, I guess. Now, this is a case where I could form the army myself to do the thing we did against the Sturgians and force our troops to go back into the offensive. But the AI has the same idea. One of the guys running away starts a new army, all the running away guys join it, and you can tell this was a bad idea because now they're dying en masse. They had no supplies, so they formed an army that just started off dying. I felt sorry for them, so I joined the army myself because I have absolutely loads of supplies. Figured I could feed them, keep our troops alive, and we'd get this town. The thing is, our troops are still dying. Not quite sure how this works, but maybe there's some kind of lag on the dying of lack of supplies. I've given them some food now. They just kept dying for whatever reason. Then, the war ended actually, so we didn't go on to take that city. It was a very short war. Disappointing because we were definitely about to make some more progress. I don't know who's making the calls on this diplomacy. So I left the army again and went south to check out another small war we have against the Western Empire. They only have this one city. But like that last Sturgian city, it's absolutely packed with all their officers, so there's more than 1,000 troops defending it, meaning actually finishing this faction off could be very difficult. I made things difficult for myself in many ways, because I kept just kind of scouting around waiting for our forces to show up. And eventually I drew near to this kind of stack of enemy units. It was hard to tell how many men are here. There's actually quite a lot, because there are loads of tiny parties standing on top of each other. And then I was too slow to get away from them once they started chasing me. So I got drawn into this fight, where the enemy have a bit of an advantage. They've got 170-ish troops against our 120, and this is where all that fighting against the looters pays off, because our troops are going to be on average a bit better than theirs. I take up a nice position. There was a bit of a ridge that I could stand on, so what I hoped is this would give my archers more line of sight, so they were more willing to shoot over the top of the infantry in front of them, keeping the infantry out there so they're safe from being charged. At the start, the enemy skirmish cav come down, and we have a bit of a skirmish with them. I thought they can just stand there, we'll snipe away. We're actually standing up against the edge of the map, so they can't go behind us in this situation. Bit of classic red line of death camping. And then in comes their army. Things look good at first because they charge our shield wall, but they turn back before they make contact and run away again. So this is good, more time for our archers to keep shooting at stuff. Then their cav charge in and start messing everything up. Many of them get through the shield wall and generally get in amongst my position with the archers. Now I'm going to be doing my traditional pretend this isn't happening extremely British style leadership technique of just ignoring the cav killing the guys around me. Unfortunately though, we don't really have a way to stop them here because our archers presumably suck in melee and the cav are just charging backwards and forwards. My cav I've sent out to outflank the enemy, so they're not helping very much. I ended up just telling the infantry to charge, breaking off the shield wall, thinking some of them will charge backwards probably and help fight the cav. And the good thing is the enemy's main infantry block just isn't really here. A few troops attacked, but mostly they ran away and did get cut down by arrows. There are still plenty of enemy archers though at the back, hitting me in the back right now in fact. But yes, this main little bit of the fight should be okay, and while we've now taken a decent number of casualties, things are starting to look good. Sorry it's another decisive battle that took place at night, by the way. It's really starting to annoy me how many of the fights take place in the dark in this game. It seems like night is just like all the time, or twilight is particularly dark or something if you fight in the mornings and the evenings. Anyway, we charge on forwards with the enemy's cav and melee infantry dead, and make a very poor show of attacking the enemy's archers, missing with all my shots. Then I switched to my swingable spear, and this was really powerful. You can easily flatten an enemy in one hit, and it's kind of easy to hit. It's like a very long sword. The kind of blunt part of the spear counts as the blade, I guess. So big damage, all looks good, and we drive them off the field, picking up a win with 20-something losses, and the enemy party is completely down, getting tons of renown and influence for winning this big decisive battle against so many enemy nobles. We're going to pull all these nobles into our prisoner party after this, of course, so this might actually make a difference, because now we can take like 7 enemy officers out of the fight, and because most of the enemy's army at this stage is just officers and their few like retinue troops, that's going to take at least 100 troops out of their final garrison. Maybe this will make the war go a bit better if they actually stay in jail here at this castle where I left them. Maybe they'll just bribe their way out. The second I leave, well, I tried. Satisfied with my efforts, I went back to Khuzait land in order to grab me a purchase. Some people were recommending I get the Khuzait glaive, so here it is, the long glaive as my new melee attack weapon. Now I just needed to find someone to try it out on. I started moving south, and on the way, got this message saying we have failed to stop the conspiracy. Thought something might happen now, but actually it just increases the conspiracy points here on this gauge. So whatever we were supposed to do to try and stop it, I guess we didn't, and now it's a little bit more conspiracy-ish. And that quest just reoccurs over and over again, so the conspiracy will keep building, and still no indication of what I'm supposed to do about that. Anyway, went and tested the glaive out against some looters, and it is very long indeed. It's nice and easy to hit enemies, although I am still battling with one of Mountain Blade's great quote-unquote features, and that is having the attack direction and the camera controls both be attached to the mouse, so it's really hard to do anything. I remember back in Mountain Blade Warband days there was a big petition to desperately not have it be like that, but I guess they didn't listen to that. It is still like that. Anyway, we move on back to that city we were at earlier, and this time when we arrive there are some allies besieging it. These 8 guys come and attack me. There's some kind of recurring glitch where if you're near an enemy city, the enemy's tiny parties will attack you. I think it kind of detects that the city garrison is nearby and thinks they're going to be drawn into the fight, but the game just doesn't work like that, especially while they're under siege. So these 8 guys very confidently come and die. Here it is happening again. A more explicit example, these 9 guys come over here and they're like, "You're outnumbered, give up!" And yeah, I just don't think they are outnumbered. They clearly think the garrison's going to come out to help them. And it's not actually just because they're under siege. The garrison actually can't come out to help unless the battle is some sort of siege sally. So nothing happens here. I tried to persuade him to defect and failed, and then we can just ride out and kill them. And with the glaive, it's actually quite fun to just do these absolute sweeps through the enemy ranks. You can easily kill armoured opponents with the added damage you get from moving with this thing. Pretty good. Now I figured that with our 1,000 troops doing the siege, it might not be enough to take the place because it still has several hundred troops inside. So I thought, well, let's get some more allies over using the make army function. So I called some allies to come help, and then unfortunately our besieging force ran out of food, a bunch of them died off, and then they broke off the siege. So that was disappointing. Basically, this isn't going to happen. The troops I've called over won't be enough to do the siege, of course. I thought maybe I could stand in the door of the castle here and prevent any of the enemy's tiny parties from leaving because they'd be too scared. Then these 20 guys come over and in fact demonstrate that thing I just said. Even with the place not under siege, the garrison still doesn't help them, so we just kill them. But now the real action happens. Eventually all the parties inside burst out in one homunculus blob, and unfortunately they catch up to me as I'm running away, perhaps because I formed an army and that slows you down. And again, I'm really near tons of my allies, but not near enough. I mean, there's no way to get them over here, so we face this very difficult battle, unfortunately. In this case, I decided not to completely die. It is worth doing the sacrifice troops to escape thing, because it's just fewer troops to get back immediately afterwards. And in this case, while it says you have to lose 80 men to escape, because there's another party in my army, some of the guys will come from that party, so it's not quite that bad. We lose like 40 to 50. Still annoying, but we're still alive, so we can keep moving away. One of my weird alien companions is very annoyed about this. You can just say, well, I won't do it again, and it makes them like you, so that's quite handy. Now after that, I was kind of frustrated that we hadn't taken that city, because that was like our chance. And I was like, right, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. It's time to play this game. Step 1, I went to a nearby city and just bought like all the food inside, filling up my inventory capacity, so that I can personally feed an entire army, even if they are starving like the army nearby. So we're going to avoid that problem here. Then I'm going to spend a whole bunch of my influence to make a new army, pulling together parties from all over the place. They'll take ages to show up because they're all far away. But basically, making an army that's definitely strong enough to take the city, will definitely have enough food. However, before it finished assembling, I moved over to be near the city to assemble just outside the gates. And unfortunately, whoever's in charge of diplomacy decided to peace out. I'm pretty sure we were going to win that war, my man. Please stop peacing out. Maybe it's because of this, we're now at war with someone else as well. It's the Aserai this time. But yes, my grand plan has failed. Now I've bought all that food and wasted hundreds of influence points for nothing, and they do take a long time to get back, so that was very annoying. At least I could use the army. I dismissed a lot of the parties that were on the way because I wasn't going to need them. Instead I went to the southwest and there was an isolated Aserai castle I could attack. This attack went really well actually, because for some reason the enemy abandoned the wall as my ladders were set up. So there's not the grind at the top of the ladder where you lose tons of men. They run off and then we can get in and just start slaughtering them, so that's all good. Unfortunately, because we're leading the army, my troops are actually up there putting their lives on the line. But we only lose 2, and we only lost like 4 men in total. That was an extremely effective castle attack actually. After that, the army's about to disband due to lack of cohesion, because I did have to move quite far to get here. And that's the end of my glorious campaign as that leader. The influence is gone, and no, it was not at all worth it. Maybe it would have been worth it if we took that city, since another faction would have been knocked out. Anyway, now I need to start rebuilding my party after the recent sacrifices, and once I'm ready I'll go back and rejoin the wars. And why don't you rejoin me in the next part to see that, where as well as this Aserai business, we're going to get down to the true business, that is fighting our big rival, the Southern Empire.